ecstasy, 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 ecstasy.
Chapter 1. Bloodlines in the East. It started on a cracked sidewalk beneath a flickering streetlight on the east side of Chicago. Two cousins, born in the same house but raised by different codes, walked side by side like shadows that never left each other's side. Malik was the loud one, tattooed arms, gold fronts, and a laugh that could shake the block. Dre was quieter, more surgical with his words, but when he spoke, even the most reckless would hush. They were GDs once, like their uncles, their older brothers, their fathers before them. But this new generation, they wanted more. The East Side wasn't like it used to be. Blocks that once honored colors and clicked in step with alliances now answered only to one thing: money. And that's where the idea began. In a busted kitchen of a two-flat with a stack of mixtape CDs on the counter and a gun tucked under a cereal box, Malik leaned back in a wooden chair and said, "Man, it's time we build our own." "Our own what?" Dre asked, wiping powder off a scale. "Our own thing. Ain't no folks or people in my pockets. It's money over all that." Dre nodded slow. M.O.E.T money over everything. Huh? The words hit the room heavy. They didn't just sound like a name, they felt like a movement. Within weeks, they etched the letters into bathroom stalls, back alley walls, and eventually onto their skin. M.O.E.T wasn't about colors or literature passed down through prison visits. It was about green, fast money, hard hustles, and cold loyalty. You weren't jumped in, you proved yourself. A lick, a flip, a ride. And once you were in, there was no turning back. Not because they'd hunt you down, but because you'd never want to go back to being broke. They started small, corner packs, stolen electronics, credit card scams. But the East Side was watching. The same OGs that laughed at them started asking questions. And before long, the whispers turned into eyes. Eyes turned into envy. "You see what the M.O.E.T boys pulled off?" someone said at the dice game near 93rd. "Caught that Bankman slipping on Stony," another replied. But Dre and Malik weren't chasing fame. They were chasing freedom. Freedom from paying dues to leaders who sat on thrones built by younger men's blood. They didn't need folk literature to tell them they were kings. They declared it every time they stacked paper and fed their own. M.O.E.T wasn't born from war. It was born from hunger. And soon, hunger would spread. Chapter 2. From the east to the north, Malik's cousin Rico lived up north, Humboldt Park, to be exact. Tall, Rican, with faded tattoos and a half-finished goatee, Rico was what you'd call a connector. He wasn't flashy like Malik or calculated like Dre, but he could get in any room, shake any hand, and come out with a plug. When Rico came down to visit that summer, M.O.E.T was already gaining traction. He saw the movement, the unity, the hustle, the way the younger dudes looked at Malik like he was a street prophet. Rico felt it in his chest, and when he went back north, he took it with him. By the fall, tags reading M.O.E.T started popping up on garage doors in Rogers Park and walls in Logan Square. But these weren't just scribbles, they were declarations. Money over everything wasn't just a phrase, it was a challenge. You couldn't rep it if you weren't moving something. If you weren't hustling, really hustling, you were wasting the letters. Northside M.O.E.T moved different. The crews were more mixed, black, Latino, even a few white boys in baggy jeans and starter jackets. The blend gave it a new flavor, a new edge. Malik had doubts at first. "You trust him with it?" Dre asked, watching Rico hop in a beat-up Mazda on his way back to the city. "He family. And if he fumbles, I'll clean it up myself," Malik replied. But Rico didn't fumble. He planted flags. One of the first moves he made was flipping an old mechanic shop into a trap spot. By day, they fixed mufflers and rotated tires. By night, they moved pills, weed, and small arms. The money flowed quick and quiet. By the time word got back to Malik, Rico had 2 crews posted in Uptown and Belmont Cragen. They were young, wild, and hungry. Rico wasn't just expanding, he was franchising. That's when the enemies started noticing. Brothers for Life, a rugged little crew from the South Side who never respected upstarts, called out M.O.E.T publicly at a gas station on 79th. Dre saw it on a burner phone video. They said, "We soft." Malik lit a blunt and leaned back. "Then let's show him how money moves." It wasn't long before a Brothers for Life crew stash house on 85th got hit. No one died, but they got the message. War was never M.O.E.T's first language, but when you spoke it to them, they were fluent. The North Side kept growing. With every new corner taken, every new crew initiated, the symbol of the $sign grew louder. It wasn't drawn in sharp anymore. It was carved into the game. Chapter 3. The rules were different. M.O.E.T had one law: get money. There were no long meetings, no hand signs, no creed to memorize. You proved your worth with product, hustle, and silence. It wasn't about killing, though some were killers. It wasn't about territory, though they had blocks. It was about mindset, a loyalty to profit, not politics. They weren't claiming folks. They weren't claiming people. That's what made them dangerous. To the outside, M.O.E.T looked sloppy, unstructured, chaotic, unpredictable. But inside the circle, it was tight. Loyalty was personal, not inherited. You couldn't join because your cousin was in. You had to earn your way. The ones that didn't, they didn't last. Dre enforced that. Dre didn't smile much. His job was to vet the money and clean the mess. He wore leather gloves even in the summer, and his eyes didn't blink when you lied. "You short?" he'd ask, watching your hands more than your mouth. Then you don't eat. You eat, then you pay. Ain't no middle. On the North Side, Rico's vision was evolving too. He started tapping in with a few Latin kings for supply, which Malik didn't like. The alliance was loose, more like quiet tolerance than trust. But Rico was smart. He kept business clean and boundaries clear. "We ain't friends," he'd tell them. "We partners. Temporary ones." The only real beef came with the Black Latin Panthers. A newer crew, rough around the edges, more about chaos than coins. They tagged over M.O.E.T graffiti on 89th in Houston. A slap in the face. Dre didn't even ask permission. That night, they burned the Panthers' stash spot to the concrete. No one was inside. It was a message, not a massacre. The way M.O.E.T preferred it. But as M.O.E.T grew, so did the questions. Cops started hearing whispers. Robberies with surgical timing. Hustles too smooth for amateurs. A name that didn't match any known alliances. One detective wrote in a report, "They're not a gang. They're a brand." Malik liked that. And then came the recruits. Young kids, fresh out of juvie, or high school dropouts with no direction. They saw M.O.E.T as a family. And it was a family of wolves. You had to hunt to stay. Malik stood on 87th one night, watching a 15-year-old kid post up with a pack. "What's your name, shorty?" he asked. "Keys," the kid said. "What you want?" "Everything." Malik smiled. "Then start with 10. And don't bring me back short." Chapter 4. Family of Wolves. By 2003, M.O.E.T wasn't just a name whispered on corners. It was stitched into reality. The North Side had its own energy. The East Side had its own blood. But both sides were the same currency across their chest: the $sign. Rico had started calling the clique the family. Not because it sounded cute, because that's what it was. Everyone in M.O.E.T had something broken in them, something blood couldn't fix. So they built their own. Dre's cousin Jojo, who used to run with the GDs, switched sides and never looked back. Jojo was quiet but cold. He didn't do street-level hustling no more. His role? Strategy. He mapped blocks, watched shipments, timed movements like a ghost. You didn't even know Jojo had walked through until your plug was missing. "Loud gangs die fast," he used to say. "Quiet ones multiply." The beef with Brothers for Life didn't die down, it evolved. B4L was reckless. All show, no structure. One of their lieutenants tried to jack a M.O.E.T runner at a gas station on 79th. Left him bleeding on the pavement. That week, Dre pulled up at a corner store with 3 hitters. They didn't say a word, didn't wave guns around, just walked inside, lined up the B4L cats drinking outside, and let one of them live to tell the others, stay the fuck away from what you can't afford. No witnesses ever spoke. Not because they were scared, but because even civilians respected the order M.O.E.T. brought. They weren't about chaos. They were about control. Malik was building a little empire on his side too. Not flashy, just real. He had a girl in Rogers Park moving packs through her daycare. Another homie flipping product at a car wash that doubled as a stash house. Everything flowed. Everything earned. And yet, Malik knew one thing for sure. Peace in this game was a mirage. You build something too clean, he told Rico one night, over a blunt, somebody's gonna come piss on it. Always. Rico nodded. So they started building for war, just in case. Chapter 5. No colors, just code. By 2005, M.O.E.T. had moved past hoods. They weren't wearing rags, throwing signs, or tagging walls with crowns or 6-point stars. They moved different. Sleek, silent, but deadly when needed. No colors, Dre used to say. Only code. Their code was money. If it don't make you bread, it don't make sense. That was the creed. Their world wasn't about territories. It was about networks. Who you knew, what you controlled, and what you were willing to lose to keep it. Every M.O.E.T. member had a role. Some hustled. Some hit licks. Some just made sure phones stayed clean and messages stayed off the wire. Everyone contributed. Anyone lacking got cut off fast. It was a brotherhood built on accountability and ambition. And then came the Latin Panthers. They weren't a huge set, but they were messy. Real messy. Try pressing up on some North Side M.O.E.T. members one night at a trap spot near Lawrence. Walked in with 2 pistols and left with 3 bullets in the back of their car. Nobody died that night, but it was the beginning of something else. Something darker. M.O.E.T. had avoided full-blown gang war. They were too focused, too calculated. But now the code had to expand. They couldn't just focus on money anymore. They had to defend what they built. Malik started training the youngest soldiers different. No more corner boy thinking. He put them on drills, taught them surveillance, escape routes, burner discipline, how to blend in with civilians and dress like college kids while packing weight. Rico started investing in silence, burner phones, clean cars, stash spots under fake plumbing. He wasn't trying to be the biggest boss on the block. He was trying to make M.O.E.T. invisible. Because the only way to stay powerful in Chicago wasn't by being seen. It was by being felt. Chapter 6. Family First, Gang Never. By 2007, most people still didn't know how to label M.O.E.T. Were they a crew? A gang? A hustle circle? To them, it didn't matter. They weren't trying to be labeled. They were trying to live. Live clean, stack high, and move like phantoms. Dre's cousin Tone had a way of putting it. We not a gang. We a bloodline of bosses. That's why new recruits weren't just anybody from the block. You didn't just join M.O.E.T. because you had a strap or sold a few dimes. You had to be invited, sponsored, watched. Some likened it to the mafia. Others said it felt like a secret society. Whatever it was, M.O.E.T. had a code of loyalty that made other sets look loose. Every member knew the rules. No snitching. No sloppy business. No beef unless it was sanctioned. And family always came first. You needed help with rent? The circle made sure your mom didn't lose the apartment. Your girl pregnant? They made sure you weren't left scrambling for diapers. It was a network. And networks were harder to kill than street corners. That's why the cops couldn't figure them out. There were no graffiti tags, no public initiations, no open-air drug markets. Just a series of cars, cash drops, quiet meetings, and burner phones. By 2008, they had grown past East Side and North Side. M.O.E.T. had whispers in Joliet, Elgin, even Indiana, but they never acted like they were kings of the city. They were just family, built off the motto, money over everything. And the streets? They started watching from the sidelines, trying to figure out how a crew with no flags was running the game without playing it. Chapter 7. Snakes in the grass. Every empire attracts enemies. By 2010, M.O.E.T. had leveled up their money moves. They were flipping stolen electronics, swiping cards, and doing subtle licks in the suburbs while still keeping street-level work going in East Side and Uptown. But with more money came more problems, and not just from law enforcement. It was brothers for life that made the first move. A minor argument at a dice game turned attention. A week later, two M.O.E.T members got jumped leaving a liquor store on 79th. The hood heard the whispers. Retaliation was coming. But M.O.E.T didn't move off emotion. They moved off intel. Instead of spraying blocks or making headlines, they started identifying weak links. Who was slipping? Who was loose with their mouth? Who was bringing heat? And that's when the snakes started showing. One young member, Keys, was caught flexing on social media, tagging cash stacks, calling out ops. He was warned, then warned again. Third time, he disappeared from the circle. Not dead, but cut off. No more plug. No more protection. This was how M.O.E.T kept their power. No room for loudmouths. No space for sloppiness. The retaliation for the liquor store incident came quiet. A stolen SUV pulled up near a Brothers for Life trap and torched it to the ground overnight. No bodies dropped. No arrests. But the message was clear. Don't touch family. The war didn't go full-blown, but from that point on, the tension between M.O.E.T and Brothers for Life was always simmering, like a stove left on low. And with the Black Latin Panthers stepping into the picture, things were about to boil. Chapter 8. Three sides of the coin. M.O.E.T never claimed folks or people. That made them a problem because they couldn't be predicted. No alliances, no rules to follow, just money, loyalty, and retaliation when needed. By 2011, the Black Latin Panthers had started creeping into North Side territories that M.O.E.T had a light grip on. At first, there was no pressure. Panthers moved different, more political, more symbolic, but eventually their younger members began flexing, tagging walls, and mouthing off in spots M.O.E.T considered green zones. One night, two Panthers pulled up to an alley dice game in Uptown, asking questions they didn't need to be asking. They left without incident, but word got back fast. Knew too much. Asked too much. Smelled like bait. CJ called a street meeting, not in a basement or a trap house, but in an old car wash where the noise of traffic kept eavesdroppers at bay. It was there he laid out, no more passive defense. If Panthers wanted smoke, they'd get it. If Brothers for Life kept pushing, they'd fold. M.O.E.T wasn't scared of blood, but they'd rather print money than spill it. Then something wild happened. The youngest members, newer, hungrier, started talking about forming a third force. Not folks, not people, not even EBK. They wanted M.O.E.T to become something else entirely. A movement. Something that didn't just survive in Chicago, but expanded to other cities. They had cousins in Milwaukee, Detroit, even Gary already asking for permission to throw up the dollar sign. CJ looked at them, and he said, "Only if y'all stop thinking like soldiers and start thinking like businessmen." The next day, fake IDs were being printed. Credit card schemes were running smooth. Cash App flips became a new hustle. M.O.E.T wasn't just on the streets, they were in the system now. Quiet, calculated, building something bigger than a set. And from that moment, the war wasn't just about blocks anymore. It was about currency, influence, legacy. Chapter 9. Family first, then fortune. By the time 2015 rolled around, M.O.E.T wasn't just a whisper on the east side or a flicker in the north. It was inked into skin, carved into alley walls, embedded in ATM scams, and echoed in stolen luxury cars cruising down Lakeshore Drive. But with growth came fractures. Some members started calling themselves M.O.E. Mafia, spinning off with different colors, claiming new blocks. Others said it was still a family, no ranks, no titles, just roles. CJ, now older and more watchful, held tight to the original code. Loyalty over fame, bread over bodies. He knew the streets had changed. The feds were watching harder. Social media made soldiers sloppy. And youngins were too eager to flex before they built. One night at a house gathering in South Shore, CJ stood up and dropped a duffel bag full of money on the table. No words, just cash, proof of what discipline looked like. Then he pointed to a set of young heads who'd been getting reckless. "You want to shoot something? Aim for a higher tack bracket," he said. That line stuck. M.O.E.T started moving smarter again. No colors, no crews too deep, just silent grinders. Contracts were made with stolen goods rings. IDs, scams, robberies, less shootouts, more profit. They weren't invincible, but they were underestimated, and that was power. The streets still whispered about beef with the brothers for life and the Panthers, but M.O.E.T. didn't bark back. They just moved weight, flipped cards, and laced the city with their presence. CJ had a motto written above his bedroom door: no fame, no followers, just family and funds. And that was the energy that would carry M.O.E.T. into the next decade. Not just surviving the Chicago game, but rewriting its rules. Chapter 10. Money over everything. In the dead of winter, the north side felt like a graveyard. Snow caked on cracked pavement, sirens echoing off frozen rooftops. But inside a small trap house off Argyle, the heart of M.O.E.T. kept beating. CJ sat with his cousin Tone, both older now. Their faces showed the weight of years in the game, but their eyes still burned. Stacks of cash were being counted. A few runners waited their turn to check in. No one talked unless they had something worth saying. "I never thought we'd make it this far," Tone muttered, lighting a Newport. CJ nodded. "That's 'cause he used to think small. This right here, this ain't just about us no more. It's legacy." They watched one of the young guys, a new recruit from uptown, nervously hand over a wad of ones and 20s. CJ asked him, "What's that mean on your neck?" The kid looked confused. M.O.E.T. "Yeah, what it mean? Money over everything." CJ leaned in. "Nah, that's only half the truth. It means move over every threat. You don't stop for shit. You don't fold under pressure. You never break. Got that?" The kid nodded quickly, eyes wide. Lesson delivered. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the blueprint remained the same. Make money, move silent, and never forget where it all started. 2 cousins, 1 code, and a city that never gave them nothing. M.O.E.T. wasn't a gang. It was a bond, a survival tactic, a mirror held up to a world that tried to label them, contain them, erase them. And yet, they stayed. Because family don't fade. And money? Money was always over everything.